sail repair, carpentry, welding. Make their way around the world pretty easily. Just trade your work for a banana. I told you what I want to do when you said pretend to the refrigeration station. Huh? It would take me too long to become a copper mechanic. You carry that tank, gas, gauges, vacuum pump, leak detector. Yeah.
Pictured on the right, Lee, retired member of the Army Special Forces. Lee was part of the abortive rescue mission to free the Iranian hostages under the Carter administration. Although it was unsuccessful, Lee relates circumstances during this rescue mission which I was not aware of. The Navy wanted to have its part in the rescue mission and thus volunteered helicopter pilots. Lee, a veteran of the Vietnam War, felt that it would have been better if former Army helicopter pilots had been in charge of the aircraft. A Navy helicopter pilot got a little bit of the jitters, and he caused a crash on the ground with one of the big transports that was to supposedly take the hostages out of Iran. Lee was in this large transport and on top of inflatable fuel tanks that were to be used to return the aircraft to safe base. The aircraft was bouncing around from the explosion of this helicopter, and Lee managed to get out of the aircraft before it was destroyed. The head of this rescue mission was Colonel Duckworth. Lee, while in the Vietnam War, as a young soldier, made aware of the infiltration of North Vietnamese troops, soldiers, guerrillas, into the military zone of the South and causing espionage and major disruptions. He volunteered to go up into the area where these infiltrators were suspected to be passing through, and he went up a creek bed, figuring this would have been the means for infiltrators to move south without being detected. Their footprints, of course, would be obliterated. Lee sat most of the night at a key spot, and he early in the morning observed 4 North Vietnamese coming down the creek bed, and he killed them all and came back to the base and informed his commanding officer of what had happened, and the officer sent men up to retrieve the bodies, and on one of them there was several $1,000s in American currency. And Lee, to this day, wished he had searched that body first. Pictured on the left is Jim Orem, who also had been in the Army Special Forces, stationed in Thailand during the Vietnam War. Jim joined me on my sailing voyage on the island of Iva Oa in the Marquesas. And he was invaluable to me as a crew member with all of his mechanical skills and sailing nautical skills, a truly skilled seaman. In the distance is Des Ormeaux. I just attended Catholic Mass and had communion for the first time in several months. That sailboat there is the Quest. Quest and Days of Mayhem have more or less followed similar paths. I first met Lee in Ibaoa, the Marquesas, and on the other islands there. And then he left for the Tuamotus earlier. He left about 5 days prior to our leaving Marquesas. We went to the Tuamotus, to the island of Monaghan, or the atoll of Monaghan, and then from there went to Tahiti, where he met his wife, who worked for the German consulate in Sydney, Australia, and she was here a week. And he will be sailing his boat down to Sydney and winter there. We'll actually stay there for a couple of years, and then hopefully convince her to leave the Foreign Service and join him on completing his circumnavigation of the globe. He has come from the Caribbean, the island of Haiti, where he provides a security service there, and he's hopeful of selling that business. He's invited me down to Sydney, spend a couple of weeks with him, and then then I would return up to Raiatea and pick up my boat and head home. Of Moorea, we're headed for Huahine. About 4:45 local time. Last long passage that I'll be making. It's about 80 miles. The rest will be just very short hops from Huahine to Bora Bora and Bora Bora to Raiatea. It'll be an overnight. We expect to arrive at the north end of Huahine at about 7 in the morning. We're in a bay near on the island of Huahine. We'll soon be leaving for Raiatea, where we'll spend a few days and move on to Bora Bora, and then return to Raiatea to haul out the boat. Leaving the island of Huahine, we're headed for the southern end of Raiatea, where we'll spend a few days and then move on to Bora Bora, and then come back to Raiatea, leave the boat, catch the plane to Papeete, and on to Honolulu. In the distance, one can just barely make out Raiatea. Sunday morning in Utaroa, the Protestant services in this camp have not begun yet, and I intend to worship there this morning. Utaroa being the capital of the islands of Sous-le-Vent, which include Raiatea, Huahine, Bora Bora, Maupiti, Tara. Utaroa is located on the northern coast of Raiatea, and nearby is the moorings, the charter place where the haul-out facilities are, and there my boat will be hauled out in a few days and left until the end of March, when I'll return and sail it back to Hawaii. The island of Ta'a'a, T-A-H-A-A, immediately north of Raiatea. We're going to make a circumnavigation of this island and then anchor on the east side, and then tomorrow head for Bora Bora. The island of Taha, astern of us. Island north of, almost contiguous with Raiatea. We did almost almost a complete circumnavigation of Taha, lacking about 10, 15 degrees. And ahead of us, not so very clear on the horizon, is Bora Bora. Well, here's a closer view of Bora Bora. We're rounding the southwest portion of the coral reef, and then we'll bear up on the west side to make entrance into the lagoon itself. And a catamaran surrounding that southwest corner, and I think you can see the beacon there with the waves crashing around it. Want to stay well away from these reefs as you round them, even though the beacon tells you that's the border of the reef. It extends out further, so you want to stay well clear of them. Number one jib is torn in an area where I heritage. It's in a bad spot, being adjacent to a hank. There's very little surrounding fabric that to which a patch can be attached to really hold. Hopefully this will be the last time I'll have to use this sail. Maybe going back to Raiatea, but perhaps the Jenny Genoa sail will be appropriate. May have to go to weather. Well, we're leaving Bora Bora, headed back toward Raiatea, where the boat will be placed in a dry storage. About a 5-hour voyage back. Desorme's resting place for the next several months. So the end of March when I come down and refit it and take off for Hawaii. Bye-bye, Desorme. You've been a real great friend. Desorme was placed in a cradle on the boatyard on the island of Raiatea until my return in April of the following year. I flew from Raiatea to Papeete and then on to Honolulu and Los Angeles, and then on to Pasadena, where I visited my daughter Sarah and her daughter 3½. She and her husband Winston had recently from Switzerland, where Winston had done research there under an Alliance Foundation grant. He had received an appointment at Caltech and Jet Propulsion Laboratories. He had received his PhD in physics from the University of California at Berkeley. I was later to return to Raiatea in April and bring the boat back to Hawaii. And there, Jim Oram was to meet me and return the boat to Seattle.
Oh, it's pretty wide awake.
He is pretty wide awake. He must not be ready to sleep yet, huh?
It's looking all around, isn't it?
Sure.
That's your camera.
Yeah,
Grandpa's
I hope it's
like-
working.
One like ours, but it's white, isn't it?
Hey, can you see me?
You sure can.
I'll tell you in a moment. Yeah, now I can, dear. I can see Miss Allison. And I see Samuel.
What is it, Samuel? Yeah, we've had our... It just... The curtain in the living room, the cord broke.
Yeah.
We couldn't really open and close the curtains. We told him months ago that, you know, what would you like us to do type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, I'll call someone about it. And we didn't want to touch it because we didn't know what to do, and we didn't want to wreck his curtains, etc. Well, finally, after a good 2.5 months.
Okay, there we are outside in the house, and Allison's dressed up like a Tahitian princess. That's how princesses in Tahiti dress.
Pareo.
In her pareo.